Maria, welcome to another Just a Spanish Phrase.
Thank you, Renzo.
Today, I want to talk about big topics, big world affecting, connecting issues.
That is great because actually, the same way I told you recently, I've been obsessed with South Park. My other obsession, I cannot get enough of it, is Cosmos by Neil deGrasse Tyson. And
Ooh,
once I finish it, I want to see Cosmos by Carl Sagan. And I'm listening to all the podcasts by Neil deGrasse Tyson because knowing the world, it's such a tiny, little, insignificant place in space, makes me feel so good.
the pale blue dot, as Carl Sagan said.
Yes,
That's right.
exactly.
And that is the perfect segue into the phrase that we are exploring today. El mundo es un pañuelo.
Which is absolutely true. The world is a handkerchief.
Yes, but in English, it's a little different. The world is not a handkerchief in English. It's simply a small world. Or another version I've heard is the world is a village.
Okay, in Venezuela, I have to say, we have a version. So black bean in Venezuela is called caraota.
A black bean?
Black
like
bean, we call
food?
it caraota.
Okay.
So a little black bean, we call it caraotica. So, but this is even better. So in Venezuela, instead of saying el mundo es un pañuelo, we say el mundo es una caraotica. The world is a tiny black bean, and we are the white part of it.
Oh, at the center,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Oh, and I don't remember my plant biology, but it does have a name. That little part. It's where the sprout would come out if you planted that bean.
Oh, well, there you
Yeah.
go. So it's not only the world is tiny, we are in the tiniest,
Yeah.
like everything is
Ooh, I think
connected.
it's endosperm. If anybody knows if it's endosperm and is listening to this right now, leave us a comment
Oh
on this
my God.
episode to see if I'm
Okay.
right. No. But okay, whether it's a little black bean
Mhm.
or a handkerchief or a village, I went from smallest to largest. It's still saying the world is much smaller than we realize. Why would we say that?
Well, because everything is connected. We're fighting for territory and we don't realize we are all in the same territory, which is a tiny territory in the big scheme of things. That's one of the ways we can use it. But also, every time my sister lives in New York, which you believe is like the Big Apple, a big city, everybody, like a lot of people. And every time she keeps on running, encountering the same people. So it's like at the end, the world is a handkerchief. El mundo es un pañuelo.
That's right. A small world. Every time you run into people that you don't expect, like, where the probability seems so small that you would run into someone. Like, I ran into someone that I went to high school with, half the world apart, randomly 20 years later. That is an experience that makes me think, oh, such a small world. El mundo es un pañuelo.
Yeah, and we see vast extensions of land, and we think maybe, oh, if I don't recycle here, nothing's going to, or if I use too much water, nothing's going to happen. But we have limited resources. We are a tiny planet, and everything that happens here affects, that's quantum physics too, right? You can tell I'm obsessed with.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great show though. Cosmos.
Oh, yeah.
I need to watch that
Neil
again.
deGrasse Tyson, what I love is he's an astrophysicist, but he says, I define myself first and foremost as an educator.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he is, because he can discuss such complex topics in such an easy, engaging, and simple way. They say when you really know something, you should be able to explain that to a 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a 5-year-old when it comes to astrophysics. So
Who doesn't?
Exactly. So I'm very grateful that Neil deGrasse Tyson is explaining to me so many things in such a simple way.
Yeah, he's a communicator, educator and communicator. So before we explore more of those ways in which our world is so amazingly interconnected, let me tell you about the origin of this phrase. Because why in Spanish do we say that the world is a handkerchief? Can you try to guess?
No, I mean, because a handkerchief is not that small either. And no, I have no idea.
All right, well, we have to go way back to before we had phones in our pockets that could pull up a map at any given time. Remember maps?
Yes.
I'm
I was
sorry.
never,
I'm being silly.
I was never good at reading them. Like when a colleague asked me the other day, do you think the influence of internet is net positive, negative, or neutral? to me in my personal life is positive, because before Google Maps, I could not find my way
Yeah,
around
how did you get
anywhere.
anywhere before
I
that?
couldn't. I didn't. I got lost for
Well,
3 hours.
you needed a map. And so if you think back to the times of maps, and especially uh, in the 1400s, 1300s, or into the Renaissance, where there was the world trade was starting to take off because of colonialism. Of course, there's very negative sides to all that. But let's think right now about the globalization aspect specifically. So much travel. Maps were a necessity, right?
Of course.
And so these world maps, mapamundi, as they call them in Spanish, they had to be really large, and they started printing them or making them on cloth. So now you see where I'm going with this. These maps, as they got larger and larger, because our world, right, the world
got
that we got larger and larger, they had to be printed on larger and larger pieces of cloth. How do you keep that? Well, you could roll it up, but some people decided to fold them.
As a handkerchief.
Just like a handkerchief, and put them in their pocket. And here's the part that I love. One of the theories about how this expression came to be is that when you fold a handkerchief, different corners of that piece of cloth meet each other. And so that's the idea of el mundo es un pañuelo, that two things on different sides of the world can suddenly come together, can suddenly be connected, because when you fold that map.
Wow. Yeah, you are like putting them. That is fascinating. There's a website, I don't remember the name right now, but it can tell you exactly which, you give your exact address, and it can tell you, if you put a hole through the whole globe, what exactly is on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mostly it's water. I think Massachusetts, all the addresses where I've lived, in Venezuela and the United States, different places where I've lived. I was disappointed to see many places. The other side was just water.
The Pacific Ocean is pretty big.
Yeah, but
my son actually tells me, but I can't remember where it is. He said that there's only one place in the whole United States where, if you did that theoretical hole through the core of the earth, you would come out on the other side on dry land. Only one place.
Interesting.
I don't remember what it was, though.
Oh, we'll have to find that out.
Future episode.
Or leave it in the comments.
Okay, but back to El Mundo es un Pañuelo. Let's talk about globalization and the way that we're all interconnected nowadays. Of course, it makes me think of climate change. It makes me think of forest fires, how smoke from fires in Canada can change weather patterns all the way in Europe, or of course the air quality down in the United States. But
the clothes we use. I watched also a very interesting documentary called Fast Fashion about how back in the day there was you had summer spring collection, and then fall winter collection.
Yeah.
Now brands have a new collection of clothes every month, sometimes every 2 weeks, and it's cheap clothes, so people buy, wear it once and toss it. And they don't toss it, they recycle it, and I say quote unquote,
right,
because all those clothes are super toxic, and they end up in the other part of the planet,
yeah,
somewhere else where they don't want
in landfills in Chile, in the Atacama Desert is one of those places, or they end up in markets in Africa where they get bought up again, but then what doesn't get purchased ends up in landfills there. It's a terrible,
contaminating terribly. So there's so many ways in which we can discuss how interconnected we are.
Oh, and most of them so far have been kind of negative about the negative impacts of globalization. So let's end on something slightly uplifting, slightly, at least a little lighter.
The mushrooms.
The mushrooms?
Yeah. Did you see that documentary, Fantastic Fungi?
No.
How all the mycella is interconnected underneath the earth, and that cleans the earth. And apparently there's a good chance that scientists are exploring the possibility that there's plastic-eating mushrooms.
I've heard about this. That could be... Well, I don't want to get too hopeful, but that could be like a silver bullet for pollution, plastic pollution.
Exactly. And definitely nature, trees, mushrooms, mycella, everything is interconnected underneath, and they're communicating. And there's hope there, I hope, because there's no hope in humans.
Well,
no, there is.
There is some hope in humans, hopefully. Hopefully there's hope. But speaking of human and popular culture, there's another thing that's taking over the world, like roots of mycelia spreading through the earth. And it's something I'm not too familiar with, but lately it's been everywhere that I look. K-pop.
Okay.
Have you heard of K-pop? And
Very
K-dramas
superficially.
and
Yeah, oh, yeah,
K-beauty.
Yeah.
So Korea has been investing for many years in really taking over the world in culture, in terms of culture. So recently, within the last couple of months, one movie about K-pop, it's an animated movie called K-pop Demon Hunters, became the most watched movie on Netflix. And it's the first soundtrack to feature 4 songs in the Billboard Top 10 ever. This
Wow.
movie is taking over the world right now. And
Like the Squid Game.
Like Squid Game,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
So
Parasites, who won an Oscar. Yeah, definitely.
it's an example of how one country, Korea, can start sending out its tendrils of influence like mycelia to take over our hearts and minds with K-pop and K-beauty.
And we finished there with 3 dots.
Oh,
We would,
maybe we'll talk about it next
think
time.
about it.
Because el mundo es un pañuelo.
Thank you.